It's February 15th, and the strange side of history awaits. Today, we have a shockwave from the sky that shattered glass and certainty, an explosion that fueled a war, and ink on paper daring to unravel a system holding power in place. Let's begin. On February 15th, 2013, the skies above Chelyabinsk, Russia, split open. At 9:20 in the morning, without warning, a 66-foot asteroid tore through the Earth's atmosphere at over 40,000 miles per hour. It came from the direction of the sun, invisible to all telescopes, and hidden in the glare. A fireball brighter than the sun blazed across the frozen sky, casting a long shadow over the mountains. Seconds later, high above the city, the space rock detonated with a violent airburst. The explosion released energy equal to 500 kilotons of TNT, 30 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. But the most terrifying part hadn't arrived yet. For 90 long seconds, there was silence. People stood at the windows, drivers slowed their cars, and children pointed upwards. Then the shockwave hit. The glass exploded inward. Over 7,000 buildings were damaged in an instant, and nearly 1,500 people were injured, most by shattering windows as the pressure ripped through homes, schools, and factories. Miraculously, no one died. The meteor became the most documented airburst in history, captured by dashboard cameras and security footage. This was a cosmic wake-up call, because if a 20-meter asteroid can do this, what happens when the next one is bigger? On February 15th, 1898, the still waters of Havana harbor turned into a grave. An American battleship, the U.S. Marine, sat anchored peacefully beneath the warm Cuban night sky. Sailors laughed below deck, lanterns flickered, and nothing felt unusual. Then, at 9:40 p.m., the harbor erupted. A violent explosion ripped through the ship's forward section, twisting steel, and the bow lifted unnaturally from the water before collapsing back into the harbor in a roar of steam and fire. Within minutes, the Maine was sinking. More than 260 sailors were dead or dying in the darkness. The cry soon echoed across America, "Remember the Maine, to hell with Spain." War swiftly followed. At the time, the U.S. investigators blamed a Spanish mine, but decades later, a quieter, more unsettling theory emerged. In 1976, Admiral Hyman G. Rickover re-examined the evidence. His conclusion? The enemy may have never touched the ship. The Maine burned a type of coal that was volatile and unstable, capable of spontaneous combustion. If a coal bunker fire ignited next to the ship's power magazine, the blast could have come within, and not an act of war. If true, the explosion that launched the Spanish-American War may have been a tactical chain reaction and human miscalculation. On February 15th, 1872, in the quiet Swiss village of Saint-Villiers, a different type of explosion began, not of gunpowder, but of ideas. The first issue of the Bouteille de la Fédération zu Rossen rolled off the modern presses. Thin paper, simple ink, fewer than 600 copies, but within its pages, something radical was taking shape. This was no ordinary paper. It became the voice of Jura Fédération, the anti-authoritarian fraction that had just broken from the First International, openly challenging influence of Karl Marx and his followers. Its founders were not merely writing essays, they were redefining revolution. Each week, issues traveled quietly across the borders, slipping into the hands of workers, organizers, and radicals across Europe. And the paper argued for anarchist collectivism and a society without centralized authority. By 1877, its pages began discussing something far more ominous: propaganda by the deed. The idea that action, even violent action, could awaken the masses. Only 283 issues were ever printed before it vanished in 1878, but its influence did not disappear, because sometimes revolutions don't begin with gunfire, they begin with ink. Another day, another strange bite from history. Like, comment, and subscribe. Your next eerie dose is just a day away.